Nobody is watching right now. No camera, no audience, no one to impress, no one to disappoint. Just you. And here is the question the Stoics would ask you in this exact moment. Are you any different? Does your posture change when you are alone? Does your discipline hold when there is no one to see it? Does your character stay the same, or does it only exist when it has an audience? Because here is what Stoicism understood about human nature long before modern psychology confirmed it. Most men have two selves. The one they perform, and the one they actually are. And the distance between those two, that gap, is the exact measure of how much of their life is built on sand. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most powerful men in the ancient world. Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, final word on life and death for millions. And yet, the Meditations, his most important work, was never written for anyone else. He wrote it in private, for himself, as a daily examination of whether the man he was in public matched the man he was when no one could see. He wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. Not your reputation, not your public image, your self-respect. The internal standard, the one that exists even when the audience has gone home." That distinction, between reputation and character, between performance and reality, is at the core of Stoic philosophy. And it is one of the most uncomfortable things a man can sit with. Here is something worth examining honestly. Think about how you behave when you know someone is watching. At work, when your manager walks past. At the gym, when someone you respect is nearby. In a conversation, when you want to appear a certain way. Now think about how you behave when you are completely alone. The discipline that disappears when no one will know. The shortcuts you take when there is no consequence. The standards you drop the moment the door closes. For most men, there is a gap. And this gap is not a moral failure. It is a design flaw. Because from childhood, we are trained to perform for external reward. Good behavior gets praised. Bad behavior gets punished. The audience becomes the standard. So the internal compass, the one the Stoics considered the only reliable guide, never fully develops. A man learns to ask, "What will people think?" instead of, "What is actually right?" Epictetus identified this as one of the primary sources of human suffering. He wrote, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things." He is not saying abandon your reputation entirely. He is saying, stop letting the audience's opinion be the engine of your behavior. Because a man who only acts well when he is being watched is not a man of character. He is a man of performance. And performances end. There is a concept in Stoic philosophy called the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius described it as the part of you that cannot be touched by external events, by other people's opinions, by circumstance or chaos. It is the fortress of the self. But here is what most people miss about that metaphor. A citadel is only as strong as what is actually inside it. If the walls are solid but the interior is empty, if you have the appearance of strength without the substance, then the citadel is just a facade. The private self is the interior. It is who you are in the silence between actions. It is the quality of your thoughts when you have no reason to filter them. It is the choices you make when absolutely no one, not a single person on earth, will ever know. And Seneca made an observation about this that is almost unsettling in its precision. He wrote, Retire into yourself as much as possible with people who will make you better. Keep them close who are capable of making you better. Most people read that as advice about choosing friends. But the first part is the important part. Retire into yourself. Go inward, examine what is actually there. Because the man you are when no one is watching, that man is not a secret version of yourself. He is the real one. So how does a man close the gap between who he performs and who he actually is? The Stoics had a practice for this. Simple, uncomfortable, and completely private. Marcus Aurelius called it the evening review. At the end of each day, before sleep, he would ask himself 3 questions. Not to judge himself, not to punish himself. To see clearly. The first, where did I act from genuine principle today, and where did I act for the audience? The second, what would I have done differently if I knew with certainty that no one would ever find out, either way? The third, is the man I was today someone I would trust? Not admire, not respect. Trust. Because admiration can be manufactured, respect can be performed. Trust requires consistency in the dark. This practice does not change a man overnight. But done honestly, over weeks and months, it begins to collapse the gap. Not because you force yourself to behave differently in public, but because you raise the standard privately, until the performance and the reality are the same thing. Until there is nothing to perform. Until the man in public and the man alone are not 2 different people, but one, whole, integrated person who behaves the same way regardless of who is watching. The Stoics called this virtue. Not a moral ideal, a practical state of alignment. A man whose inside and outside match. There is a kind of freedom that very few men ever experience. It is the freedom of having nothing to hide. Not because life is perfect. Not because every decision has been right. But because the standard you hold yourself to does not depend on an audience. It does not require witnesses. It does not collapse when the room goes quiet. That freedom is not given. It is built, slowly, in private, through the daily practice of being the same man whether or not anyone is watching. Marcus Aurelius spent years writing to himself in the dark. Not because he had to. Because he understood that the man he was in private would eventually become the man he was in public. There is no separation. There is only the character you are building, one unseen moment at a time. Nobody is watching. That is not a reason to relax your standards. That is the test. Walk the path. Remain steady.